All right, so we're starting topic 13 today, which is solving inequalities. Today we are only going to solve one-step inequalities, but as we go further into the topic, we'll start solving some more complex problems. So today our learning goal is that I can solve one-step inequalities by using the inverse properties of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Make sure that you write that down in your notes. So what is an inequality? An inequality is a mathematical sentence that uses symbols, these symbols, to compare the values of two expressions. So what do these symbols mean? So we also need to know what they mean on a graph, or what our graph looks like. So this first symbol is a less than symbol, and so that means that if I have a number on a number line, let's say it's 3, that means if I say a number less than 3, it needs to be every number that is below 3 but does not include 3. So it's an open circle that goes to the left. With a less than or equal to statement, that means that I have 3. Only now I can circle and color in my point because I am going to include 3. It makes my statement true. And so I do include 3 as a solution, and then I go every number to the left as well. Greater than means that if I have my number line and I'm using a 3, it's going to be an open circle because that is not an answer to the problem, but it's every number above 3 that is an answer or a solution to the inequality. A greater than or equal to sign means that if I'm at 3 again, I do include 3 in my statement because that is a solution, and it is everything to the right because it's everything that's above 3 or equal to 3. And all of those make that statement true. Not equal to means that if I have a number line and just a 3, it's just going to be an open circle because we just don't include 3 in my answers. So now we're going to annotate just a couple of problems so that way we can learn how to write an inequality. So some number n, I'm going to write an n, is no more than 25. So I have 25. I need to figure out what inequality symbol goes in between there. So if it's no more than 25, I want to know, can it be 25? And since it says no more than, this is a keyword that actually means that is, it does include 25 and every number below it. So on our graph, we would have 25, we would have a closed circle, and it's everything below, so it's everything to the left of it. We can double check this because if I erase the n and plug in another number like 25, we need to see does it make our statement true. So 25 is less than or equal to 25. And since it's equal to, it works. If I have 26 here, 26 here, 26 is less than or equal to 25. That's false. And since it's false, it's not a solution, and that's why it's not colored in over here. You will work fewer than 25 hours this week. So I work so many hours, and it needs to be fewer than 25. This is a less than because we are not going to include 25 in our solutions, because if I plug a 25 in here, 25 is not fewer than 25. It's equal to it, so it's not a solution. So the internet starts at $30 per month. So that means that it might be more than $30 per month. Not exactly. So we're going to include $30 per month, so we circle it in. And we know that it could be more than that, so we're going to go to the right. So now we're going to try to figure out, well, how do I write this as an inequality? Well, we know that the cost, I'm going to call it x, has to be something that has to do something with 30. So it's going to be greater than or equal to 30 because the larger side of my inequality needs to be my cost and the smaller side needs to be 30 because that's the smallest number that it could be. So that's another example as a word problem. Now we're going to get into actually solving inequalities. So if I had a problem that looks like this, how could I solve my inequality so I could graph it? Because we can't graph it until I find my solutions. So just like we did last topic, if I see a subtraction sign, I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to add 2.2 to both sides. And so then you keep your inequality the same when you're adding and subtracting, and then you bring down your letter. So we know that Q is going to be greater than 16, which isn't even on the graph, but we'll just find a new one. So we're going to label this 16. It's an open circle at 16, and it needs to be greater than 16. Right, so like we did on the last problem, we draw our line. Right now we're adding 8, so we got to do the opposite. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. We keep our symbol the same, and we just bring it down, and then bring down our letter. So our solution is R is going to be less than or equal to 14.5. I don't like this graph, so we're just going to make our own. So at 14.5, we know that it's going to be a closed circle because there's a line underneath. And then it's everything below that. And if our letter is on the left-hand side, then our inequality points in the direction that our graph needs to go. So it's going to go to the left. All right, so let's try a word problem. So an airline restricts checked baggage to 80 per person, so 80 pounds per person. You pack one 42-pound bag, and we want to know, well, how much is our second bag weigh? So that means I need to have another bag. And it needs to be less than or equal to 80. The reason that I know that it's 80 is because it says it restricts it to 80 pounds. And since it says 2 there, we know that it can also still be 80. So now we're going to draw our line. We're going to subtract 42 from both sides. These cancel out. Bring down our symbol. And then we now know that it is going to be 38 pounds or less to make that true. All right, now we're going to look at multiplication and division for our one-step inequalities. And so an elephant drinks at least 70 liters of water a day. So at least, that means that 70 is the smallest amount that it's allowed to drink to stay hydrated. Each trunk holds 4 liters of water. So we know that it's going to be 4 liters of water times some amount of water or some amount of trunkfuls. And that has to be less than or equal to 70. So just like we did last unit, we draw our line, and right now we're multiplying. And so when we multiply, we know that the opposite is actually to divide. So we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. And when we do that, these cancel, and we have x is greater than or equal to 17.5. So that means that that elephant has 17.5 trunkfuls of water a day. And that's just the minimum. It might have more than that. All right, so now we're going to look at division. So when we divide, or whenever we see division, it looks like a fraction. And so we know that fractions mean division. So to get rid of it, we're going to multiply by a negative 4 on both sides. So we're going to do the opposite. These cancel. And I'm going to have k, and then we have a negative 84. And the reason that I have left this blank right now is because there's a special rule. And this rule is when we multiply or divide by a negative number, my symbol flips directions. So make sure that you write that in your notes. Whenever we multiply or divide by a number, a negative number, on both sides like we did here, it flips our inequality. All right, so I want you to try this on your own. And then we will check that next class period. And then we're going to look at this fraction one. So Right now we are dividing by 12. So we are going to do the opposite and multiply by 12 on both sides. These cancel, and so I have B. I didn't multiply by a negative, I multiplied by a positive, so I keep my symbol and just bring it down. And since it happens to be the same denominator over here, they cancel on this side. So that means I just have a 1. So we know that B is going to be less than or equal to 1. And I want you to graph that one, and we're going to check that next class period as well. All right, let's try the movie tickets. So movie tickets cost at least $8. You want to buy as many tickets as possible with $36. So that means that I can buy or spend enough money that equals exactly $36. Write and solve an inequality to tell you how many tickets you can buy. So we know that it's 8 per ticket, and I want to buy as many as I can. So I'm going to multiply that by as many tickets as I can get. And I know that it's got to be less than or equal to $36. So right now I'm multiplying by 8. So let's divide by 8. And this does not go in there evenly. And so it's okay to have a fraction or a decimal. And in this case, it's going to be 4.5 tickets. But when we think about the situation, I can't buy 4.5 tickets. I can't buy 5 tickets. So it can't be equal to 4.5, but it can be equal to 4. So my new answer is actually going to be x is less than or equal to 4. So the reason that it can't be 5 is because if I plug a 5 in here and I do 8 times 5, that equals 40. That's too much money. I don't have $40. So since I can't actually round up in this case and it stay a solution, I have to round down, and so my solution is that I can buy 4 tickets or I can buy less than that.